the July edition of Morning Book Buzz, the nice middle of summer, hot, sweaty version of Morning Book Buzz, where that coffee looks good, but maybe it should be an iced coffee up there on the screen. We are so happy to be with you this morning. We we were thrilled to see a lot of you last week or the week before in San Diego. We had a great time. We ate a lot of really good food. San Diego is just beautiful. We got to talk about a lot of really fun books and got to launch our summer reading campaign, which was fun, which we'll get to in this presentation as well. So we, again, as always, thank you so much for joining all of us. And we will just take a moment to introduce ourselves and tell you what we are reading this month or right now for our summer read. And I saw one of your comments. A lot of you were able to get your own Morning Book Buzz mugs in San Diego, which was very exciting for us to give them out. So we are glad. So just to introduce myself formally, I'm Kelly Coyle-Crivelli with the Penguin Random House Library Marketing Team. I am currently reading Summer After Summer, which unlike all the other books that you've probably noticed from the summer that have the word summer in it, this one has the word summer in it twice. I have been amazed at how many books have the word summer in it this summer. But this is a really fun book. It's from one of our client publishers, Alcove Press. It's a retelling of Persuasion, which I think I've read every Jane Austen and Jane Austen retelling. So I always love when there's a new one. And it's a perfect little summer read. And so why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Elizabeth Fabian. I do not have the word summer in my summer staff pick, but I have a beautiful cover that looks perfect for summer. I've decided that I want my summer read to be filled with twists and turns, maybe a little bit of duplicity, maybe some betrayal. So my pick is The Next Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. This is the thrilling sequel to the best-selling Reese's Book Club pick, The Last Mrs. Parrish. And it is just the perfect read if you want to follow some people who are not very likable. And it's a gorgeous cover, as you can see. And I will pass it to Miriam for her pick.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Miriam Tulio, and this summer I'm reading Thus Waves Come in Pairs, and this is a interdisciplinary collection that reflects on nature, history, and culture, and it's a book that is sparked by a conversation between two Lebanese American artists.
If you haven't read The Last Mrs. Parrish, I just have to throw it out there. I cannot wait to read this one. The Last Mrs. Parrish is one of the twistiest books I've ever read, and I'm so excited for The Next Mrs. Parrish. All right, sorry, go.
And on this slide, you'll have is indicated the various formats that our books are produced. The majority of them will be available in whatever format you wish. And the orange E indicates that there's an eGalley available, and you can request it on NetGalley or Edelweiss.
As Kelly mentioned, we are very excited to have kicked off our summer reading program. Summer reading is not just for kids, it's for adults too. So we have our Gone Reading program, and we hope you and your patrons are already aware or will become aware very, very soon of this program. We have a great summer reading hub to get your adult summer reading recommendations, great lists of books. We have a reading checklist with 13 prompts for the 13 weeks of summer. Our summer reading excerpt sampler is there as well, and so much more. So please visit our summer reading hub and share everything with your patrons, and we will send all of the links in the wrap up so you don't need to write them down just now.
And another thing we launched at ALA Annual was our brand new book club brochure. We know that this is one of our most popular items, so please feel free to look at that tiny URL as well to download it. But as Elizabeth said, it'll be sent out in the wrap-up report. And I do believe we might even have some to be mailing out. But this one has, the book club brochure is great because it gives you some book club choices. It also gives you sample discussion questions. It has audiobooks in there. It has books for young adults. And it just has a great sampling of books that we know your book clubs will all enjoy talking about. And we know that it's always very stressful when you have to pick the book club book. So we hope that this helps you for this summer and for the next couple of months.
So we'll launch into our books. Our first theme is fables and folklore, and I just want to give you guys a little bit of a hint. There are some little Easter eggs in our presentation today that may make more sense as we go along. But anyway, I will launch today with Into the Uncut Grass by Trevor Noah, the globally beloved comedian, host of the award-winning The Daily Show, best-selling author, born a crime. If you were lucky enough to be with us at ALA a few short weeks ago, you may have heard Trevor speak to a massive crowd about this new book, which is so close to his heart. It's really a tribute to a mother and a son, to imagination, to striving toward understanding between people. Um, in the tradition of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, Into the Uncut Grass is a gorgeously illustrated fable about a young child's journey into a world beyond the shadow of home, a magical landscape where he discovers the secrets of solidarity, connection, and finding peace with the people we love. It's infused with Trevor Noah's signature wit and imagination, and in collaboration with the visionary artist Sabrina Hahn, it's a timeless tale for readers of all ages. It's a beautiful book, and I'll note that the audiobook will be read by none other than the author. And I can't stress enough that this is a book for you and all of your readers, and you really will not want to miss it.
The Teller of Small Fortunes is for readers of cozy fantasies. And a wandering fortune teller finds an unexpected family in this warm and wonderful debut, perfect for readers of Travis Baldree and Sengu Mandana. Tayo is an immigrant fortune teller traveling between villages with just her trusty mule for company. She only tells small fortunes, whether it will hail next week, which boy the barmaid will kiss, when the cow will calf. She knows from bitter experience that big fortunes come with big consequences. Even if it's a lonely life, it's better than the one she left behind. But a small fortune unexpectedly becomes something more when a semi-reformed thief and an ex-mercenary recruit her into their desperate search for a lost child. Soon they're joined by a baker with a need for adventure, and of course, a slightly magical cat, which has to be in every cozy story. Teo starts down a new path with companions as big-hearted as her fortunes are small. But as she lowers her walls, the shadows of her past close in, and she'll have to decide whether to risk everything to preserve the family she never thought she would have. The Ancients. The Ancients is in our sci-fi and fantasy category. It's a richly imagined, sweeping novel from the author of the acclaimed book Whiskey When We Were Dry, which I loved. This is about a young boy and his sisters who find themselves suddenly and utterly alone, orphaned in an abandoned fishing village. Their food supplies dwindling, they set out across breathtaking, treacherous wilderness in search of the last of their people. Down the coast, raiders delivered the children's mother, along with the rest of their human cargo, to the last port city of a waning empire. Determined to reunite with her family, she plots her escape while her fellow captives plan open revolt. With a rapidly changing climate shifting the sands beneath their feet, the three characters in this book, their paths converge in a struggle for the future of humanity. Who will inherit what remains, and who gets to tell the story? At once a sweeping survival story, an epic of the distant future, and a post-apocalyptic vision of hope and optimism, The Ancients weaves a multi-layered narrative about human resilience, hope, and stewardship of our world for future generations. And I will tell you, the way that he writes, you really feel like you're reading a book that's been around forever, and the adventure and the you just feel like you're transported to this other wherever he writes about, you are there with him the whole time. I love the way he writes.
Well, I am very excited to tell you about Blood over Bright Haven, which combines some of my favorite things. This is a thought-provoking, dark academia fantasy from the author of The Sword of Kagan and the YA fantasy series The Volta Academy Chronicles. For 20 years, Siona has devoted every waking moment to the study of magic, fueled by a mad desire to achieve the impossible, to be the first woman ever admitted to the high magistracy at the University of Magics and Industry. When Siona finally passes the qualifying exam and becomes a high mage, she finds her challenges have just begun. Her new colleagues are determined to make her feel unwelcome, and instead of a qualified lab assistant, they give her a janitor. What neither Siona nor her peers realize is that her taciturn assistant was not always a janitor. 10 years ago, he was a nomadic hunter who lost his family, and now he sees the opportunity to understand the forces that decimated his tribe, drove him from his homeland, and keep the privileged in power. Working together, they uncover an ancient secret that could change the course of magic forever if it doesn't get them killed first. With its intricate magic system and provocative themes, Blood over Brighthaven will appeal to readers of V.E. Schwab's Darker Shade of Magic and Robert Jackson Bennett's Foundry Side.
Well, I don't know if any of you have heard of the small author that we have on our list, Haruki Murakami. How exciting to talk about this one with you guys. The City and Its Uncertain Walls. I'm thrilled to let you know about this new book. From this novel, in the afterword, Murakami says, truth is not found in fixed stillness, but in ceaseless change and movement. Isn't this the quintessential core of what stories are all about? So you already know you're in for a super treat with his latest book. The long awaited new novel, first in 6 years, revisits a town his readers will remember, a place where a dream reader reviews dreams and where our shadows become untethered from ourselves. It's a love story, a quest, an ode to books and to libraries that house them, and a parable for these strange post pandemic times. The City and Its Uncertain Walls is a singular and towering achievement by one of modern literature's most important writers. We are so thrilled to bring this to you in November. Okay, so now on to some book club picks, which we always love talking about. Love Can't Feed You, a beautiful, tender, yet searing another debut novel about intergenerational fractures and coming of age story, following a young woman who immigrates to the United States from the Philippines and finds herself adrift between familial expectations and her own desires. It asks us, what does it mean to be of multiple cultures without a roadmap for how to belong? After a harrowing flight, Queenie, her younger brother, and their elderly Chinese father arrive in the United States from the Philippines. They're here to finally reunite with Queenie's Filipina mother, who has been working as a nurse in Brooklyn for the past few years, building a life that everyone hopes will set them up for better prospects. But her mother is not the same woman she was in the Philippines. Something in her face is different, almost hardened, and she seems so American already. Queenie, on the cusp of adulthood, has big dreams of attending college, of spending her days immersed in the pages of books, but there is not enough money for her and her brother to both be in school, so she first must work. Queenie rotates through jobs and settles tentatively into her new life, but her brother begins to withdraw and act out, and her father's anger swells. As the pressures of assimilation compound and the fissures within her family deepen into fractures, Queenie is left suspended between two countries, two identities, and two parents. Surely a book that will give everybody in book club something to talk about.
And our next book is The Sound of a Thousand Stars. Oppenheimer meets Hidden Figures in the sweeping historical debut where two physicists form an inseparable bond amidst fear and uncertainty. Alice Katz is a young Jewish physicist, one of the only female doctoral students at her university, studying with the famed Dr. Oppenheimer. Her well-to-do family wants her to marry a man of her class and settle down. Instead, Alice answers her country's call to come to an unnamed city in the desert to work on a government project shrouded in secrecy. At Los Alamos, Alice meets Caleb Bloom, a poor Orthodox Jew who has been assigned to the explosives division. Around them are other younger scientists and engineers who have quietly left their university posts to come live in the desert. No one seems to know exactly what they're working on. What they do know is that it is a race and that they must beat the Nazis in developing an unspeakable weapon. And in this desperate atmosphere, and despite their many differences, Alice and Caleb find themselves drawn to one another. Inspired by the author's grandparents, The Sound of a Thousand Stars is a propulsive novel about love, war, and the consequences of our decisions.
If you have heard me speak before, or more accurately, gush about Sophie Kinsella, you know how much I love her. Confessions of a Shopaholic is still one of my all-time favorite reads for a genuine laugh, and now Kinsella returns with the novel, What Does It Feel Like? An unforgettable story by turns heartbreaking and life-affirming. Eve is a successful novelist who wakes up one day in a hospital bed with no memory of how she got there. Her husband, never far from her side, explains that she has had an operation to remove a large malignant tumor growing in her brain. As Eve learns to walk and talk and write again, and as she wrestles with her diagnosis and how to explain it to her beloved children, she begins to recall what's most important to her. Long walks with her husband's hand clasped firmly in her own, family game nights, and always buying that dress when she sees it. This short, extraordinary novel is a celebration of life, shot through with warmth and humor. It will break your heart and put it back together again. Jojo Moyes says, I laughed and I cried, and then I thought about the meaning of life, a little jewel of a book. And Jodi Picoult raves, the bravest book you'll read all year. And from Sophie Kinsella herself, what Does It Feel Like is fiction, but it is my most autobiographical work to date. Eve's story is my story. Sophie Kinsella is wonderful. Please to pick this one up.
Wow, Elizabeth, that
I
sounds,
know.
I'm like getting all choked up.
I know.
Jeez.
And our next book is Rental House from the acclaimed author of Chemistry and Joan is Okay. Caro and Nate first meet in college, brought together by a joke at a Halloween party. Would a great white costume mean dressing like a shark or a privileged Ivy League student? And marrying a few years later. Misfits in their own families, they find in each other a feeling of home. Caro is the only child of strict, well-educated Chinese immigrant parents who hold her to impossible standards, even as an adult. To use a dishwasher is to admit defeat, says her father. Nate is from a rural, white, working class family that has never trusted his intellectual ambitions or now the citizenship status of his foreign wife. Nevertheless, some years into their marriage, Carol and Nate find themselves incorporating their families into two carefully planned vacations, and the results are disastrous and revealing. Waiki Wang's trademark wit and humor are in full force in Rental House. This is a concentrated gem of a novel about the seen and unseen forces like in laws, careers, dreams, and fears that shake up a marriage over time. And our next book is Set My Heart on Fire, the eagerly awaited debut biographical novel from the acclaimed cult favorite short story writer Uzumi Suzuki. Set in the underground bar and club scene of 1970s Tokyo, Set My Heart on Fire tells the story of Izumi in her turbulent 20s. Through a series of disarmingly frank vignettes, author Suzuki presents an unforgettable portrait of a young woman encountering missteps and miscommunication, good music and unreliable men, powerful drugs and disorientating meds. Pulsing through the narration is the protagonist's love of music, a vital soundtrack spanning the Zombies, T-Rex, the Rolling Stones, and underground Japanese psychedelic rock bands such as the Tigers and the Tempters. There's huge interest in this author. Izumu Suzuki was a countercultural icon and a pioneer of Japanese science fiction. She worked as a key punch operator before finding fame as a model and actress, but it was her writing that secured her reputation. She took her own life at the age of 36.
On to our mystery and thriller slide. We have two really fun books to talk about today that are totally different. The first one, I'm sure a lot of you remember, it was a Library Reads pick, Shutter from Ramona Emerson. This is the second in the series. It's called Exposure, and it's the follow-up to her National Book Award long-listed, also Library Reads choice, Shutter. It's about Navajo forensic photographer Rita Tadachini. She grapples with a fanatical serial killer and the ghost he leaves behind. It's a dual voice cat and mouse thriller told from the point of view of the killer who has created his own deadly religion and the only person who can stop him, an embattled young detective who sees ghosts of the native victims. In Gallup, New Mexico, where violent crimes are 5 times the national average, a serial killer is operating unchecked. His targets indignant native people whose murders are easily disguised as death by exposure on the frigid winter streets. Rita Tagini, the Albuquerque PD forensic photographer, is at a crisis point in her career. Her colleagues are watching her with suspicion after the recent revelation that she can see the ghosts of her murder victims. Her unmanageable caseload is further complicated by the fact that half the department has blacklisted her for ratting out a corrupt fellow cop. And back home in Tohatchi on the Navajo reservation, Rita's grandma is getting older. Maybe it's time to leave her police work behind entirely. If only she could escape from this case that she's already embroiled in. This is going to be another wonderful thriller from Ramona Emerson, and we are confident that you will love it, and it comes out in October. And then, totally different, this one looks so fun, Pony Confidential. It's a feel-good mystery like The Maid, but also has a wonderful animal narrator like Art of Racing in the Rain. It's a one-of-a-kind mystery with heart and humor. A hilariously grumpy pony must save the only human he's ever loved after discovering she stands accused of a murder she did not commit. Pony has passed from owner to owner for longer than he can remember. Fed up, he busts out and goes on a cross-country mission to reunite with Penny, the little girl he was separated from and hasn't seen in years. Penny is now an adult living an ordinary life when she gets a knock on her door and finds herself in handcuffs, accused of murder and whisked back to the place she grew up. Her only comfort when the past comes back to haunt her is the memory of her precious rebellious pony. Hearing of Penny's fate, Pony knows that Penny is no murderer. So, as smart and devious as he is cute, the pony must use his hard-won knowledge of human weakness and cruelty to try and clear Penny's name and find the real killer. It's a cutely observed, feel-good mystery that reveals the humanity of animals and the beastliness of humans in a rollicking escapade of epic proportions. How fun.
I'm a sucker for horse books, so you're speaking my language.
Love them.
We are really very thrilled to have a plethora of amazing memoirs to offer this fall. And I will tell you about the first. Um, so we have From Here to the Great Unknown, a one-of-a-kind memoir by Lisa Marie Presley and Riley Keough. In 2022, Lisa Marie Presley asked her daughter to help her finally finish her long gestating memoir. A month later, Lisa Marie had passed, and the world would never know her story in her own words, never know the passionate, joyful, caring, and complicated woman that Riley loved and now grieved. Riley got the tapes that her mother had recorded for the book and listened as Lisa Marie told story after story about smashing golf carts together in the yards of Graceland, about the unconditional love she felt from her father, about being dragged screaming from the bathroom as she ran toward his body on the floor, about living in Los Angeles with her mother, getting sent to school after school, always in trouble, about her singular lifelong relationship with Danny Keough, about being married to Michael Jackson, what they had in common, about motherhood, about deep addiction, and Riley knew that she had to fulfill her mother's wish to make her mother known. In this extraordinary and profoundly moving memoir, Lisa Marie Presley tells her whole story for the first time. And I'll just make a note to say that you should stay tuned for some exciting audio production updates on this book soon. It's sure to be a very special edition of the book, so you will definitely want this book in all and every format.
And our next book is A Sunny Boy from one of the most legendary actors in film history. This is a remarkable account of a creative life in full. To the wider world, Al Pacino exploded onto the scene like a supernova, landing his first leading role in The Panic in Needle Park in 1971, and by 1975, starring in four movies: The Godfather Part 2, Serpico, and Dog Day Afternoon, all landmarks in the history of film. By his mid-30s, Pacino had already lived several lives. A fixture of avant-garde theater in New York, he had led a bohemian existence working odd jobs to support his craft. He was raised by a fiercely loving but mentally unwell mother, and her parents after his father left them when Pacino was a boy. But in a real sense, he was raised by the streets of the South Bronx and by the troop of wayward young friends he ran with, whose spirits never left him. After a teacher recognized his acting promise and pushed him toward New York's fabled High School of Performing Arts, the die was cast. In good times and in bad, in poverty and in wealth, through pain and through joy, acting was his lifeline, its community, his tribe. Sonny Boy is a memoir of a man who has nothing left to fear and nothing left to hide. And through a life of some pretty astonishing pain and chaos, Pacino's salvation has always been his love of his vocation, the craft of the actor. And this is one of the best love songs to the work ever written. The audiobook will be narrated by the actor. And next we have The Wall of Life. Academy Award winning actress and the New York Times bestselling author Shirley MacLaine shares a dazzling memoir in photographs chronicling her extraordinary life with 150 plus images from her personal archive. With more than 70 years on the silver screen, Shirley MacLaine has, as she says, seen it all, done it all, been everywhere, and met everyone. In 1955, she debuted in Hollywood as the lead role in The Trouble with Harry, winning her first of many Golden Globes. And from there, her popularity only grew as she amassed a stunning collection of awards, stories, and experiences. Now, at nearly 90 years old, MacLaine, one of the last remaining stars from the golden age of Hollywood, has more stories to tell. By introducing readers to her extensive photo collection, MacLaine shares both intimate family memories and images from some of the most significant figures of film, entertainment, and politics. And with her natural wit and charm, she reveals the stories behind each photo, exploring ambition, love, friendship, art, political activism, and motherhood. And next we have Patriot, a powerful, moving memoir by the late Alexei Navalny, the Russian anti-corruption campaigner, activist, opposition leader, political prisoner who won international recognition and respect and paid the ultimate price for his beliefs. Navalny began writing Patriot shortly after his near-fatal poisoning in 2020. In vivid, page-turning detail, Navalny recounts the full story of his life from his youth and family to his call to activism, political career, the many attempts on his life, the lives of the people closest to him, and the relentless campaign his team waged against an increasingly dictatorial regime. Written with passion, wit, candor, and bravery, Patriot is Navalny's final letter to the world, a moving account of his last years spent in the most brutal prison on earth, a reminder of why the principles of individual freedom matter, and a rousing call to continue the work for which he sacrificed his life. This is a news-making global event with a simultaneous worldwide publication. This book will make headlines and shed light on the life and death of a political freedom fighter.
So next up from me are two memoirs of people that are massively important in our time. The first one is Donald Sutherland, Made Up but Still True. This is going to be one of those all-consuming books of his entire amazing life story. And we are sad that he just recently passed away and won't be able to be talking about the book. But how timely is it that now we get to hear his own story from him so soon after his passing? I know we're all huge Donald Sutherland fans, and we had a moment in one of our meetings talking about it. But this is a long awaited, bracingly candid, and utterly unpredictable story of the movie legend Donald Sutherland, sharing his deep acting for passion, his intense journey through success and loss, and of course, every wild story in between. As one of the most enduring actors in Hollywood, he made his mark on the industry since his life changing role in MASH catapulted him into the public eye nearly 60 years ago. Wow. With his raw honesty and wicked sense of humor, the renowned actor chronicles his life in this generation defining book, cataloging with powerful details his far too many brushes with death, his relationship with his loving parents, and behind the scenes stories of some of the movies he starred in, like MASH, Kelly's Heroes, Ordinary People, The Hunger Games, and many, many more. He offers an unfiltered account of his life that is deeply insightful and emotional and often very funny. Um, with these weird twists where he's like a man with nine lives. In 1937, he was treated for infantile paralysis, followed a couple of years later by a bacterial infection. Later in life, rheumatic fever could have killed him, and after that, a bout with spinal meningitis did kill him, but only for a few seconds, then left him in a coma that took him a good while to come out of. He talks about being 16 years old, having his first sexual relationship, his first love, his first lessons in love. She was twice his age, and they had a wonderful time. He also reveals the onstage triumphs that began his career, the pitfalls that threatened it, and the movies that burnished it. It's all just fun. It's hijinks. It's his whole, life. And like I said, it's the perfect time for this. And perhaps you've heard of another small author of ours, Bill Clinton, My Life After the White House. This is called Citizen, a powerful, candid, and richly detailed memoir from an American icon. What life looks like after the presidency, triumphs, tribulations, and all. On January 20th, 2001, after nearly 30 years in politics, 8 of them as president, Bill Clinton was suddenly a private citizen. Only 54 years old, full of energy and ideas, he wanted to make meaningful use of his skills, his relationships with world leaders, and all he learned in a lifetime of politics. But how? Just days after leaving the White House, the call came to aid victims of a devastating earthquake in India, and Clinton hit the ground running. Over the next 2 decades, he would create an enduring legacy of public service and advocacy work from Indonesia to Louisiana to Northern Ireland, South Africa, um, and in the process of reimagining philanthropy and redefine the impact of a former president could have on this world. It's his front row, first person chronicle of his post presidential years and the most significant events of the 21st century, including 9 11, the Iraqi war, the Haitian earthquake, the recession, and more. And these pages capture Clinton in a rare, unforgettable light as a leader, but also as a father, a grandfather, and husband, recounting his support for Hillary during her time as senator and as a presidential candidate. It's his highly anticipated follow-up to My Life, and it embraces what he's looking forward to in the future, and it's eloquent, full of insight and candor, and it's a testament to one man's unwavering commitment to family and nation.
This fall, we also have 2 very well-known authors returning to nonfiction with their work. This October, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Between the World and Me returns with The Message, as he journeys to 3 resonant sites of conflict to explore how the stories we tell and the ones we don't shape our realities. Ta-Nehisi Coates originally set out to write a book about writing in the tradition of Orwell's classic Politics and the English Language, but he found himself grappling with deeper questions about how our stories, our reporting, our imaginative narratives and myth-making expose and distort our realities. In the first of the book's 3 intertwining essays, Coates, on his first trip to Africa, finds himself in 2 places at once: in Dakar, a modern city in Senegal, and in a mythic kingdom in his mind. Then he takes readers along with him to Columbia, South Carolina, where he reports on his own book's banning, but also explores the larger backlash to the nation's recent reckoning with history and the deeply rooted American mythology so visible in that city, a capital of the Confederacy. And finally, in the book's longest section, Coates travels to Palestine, where he sees the tragedy that lies in the clash between the stories we tell and the reality of life on the ground. This work from one of our country's most important writers is about the urgent need to untangle ourselves from destructive myths and embrace the liberating power of even the most difficult truths. And Ta-Nehisi will read the audiobook for this one.
And how exciting is this one? Framed, John Grisham, Astonishing True Stories of Wrongful Convictions. He writes this with Jim McCloskey. This is his first work of nonfiction since The Innocent Man. The master of the legal thriller teams up with Jim McCloskey, the godfather of the innocence movement, to share 10 harrowing true stories of wrongful convictions, obviously for readers of Just Mercy. John Grisham is known worldwide for his best-selling novels, but his real-life passion for justice led to his work with Jim McCloskey of Centurion Ministries, the first organization dedicated to exonerating innocent people who have been wrongly convicted. Together, they offer an inside look at the many injustices in our criminal justice system. A fundamental principle of our legal system is a presumption of innocence, but once someone has been found guilty, there is very little room to prove doubt. These 10 true stories shed light on Americans who were innocent but found guilty and forced to sacrifice friends, family, and decades of their lives in prison while the guilty parties remained free. In each of these stories, Grisham and McCloskey recount the dramatic, hard-fought battles for exoneration. They take a close look at what leads to wrongful conviction in the first place and the racism, misconduct, flawed testimony, and corruption in the court system that can make them so hard to reverse. Framed is the story of winning freedom when the battle already seems lost and the deck is stacked against you.
We don't want to forget the foodies on our list, and we have two wonderful books to share. We are very excited to be publishing Be Ready When the Luck Happens, the long-awaited memoir from Ina Garten, aka the Barefoot Contessa. Here for the first time, Ina Garten presents an intimate, entertaining, and inspiring account of her remarkable journey. From a difficult childhood to meeting the love of her life, Jeffrey, and marrying him while still in college, from a boring bureaucratic job in Washington, D.C., to answering an ad for a specialty food store in the Hamptons, from the owner of One Barefoot Contessa shop to the author of best-selling cookbooks and celebrated television host, Ina has blazed her own trail and, in the meantime, taught millions of people how to cook and entertain. And now she invites them to come closer to experience her story in vivid detail and to share the important life lessons that she learned along the way, including do what you love, because if you love it, you'll be really good at it. And of course, the lovely Ina will read this audiobook.
And our next book is A Sweet Year by Joan Nathan. In Jewish tradition, holidays are a time for family and feasting, and for Joan Nathan, nothing embodies the holiday spirit more than cooking delicious, festive favorites with friends and loved ones. When our own children were young, Nathan published the first version of this book, which covers 9 Jewish holidays and includes step-by-step instructions for kids and their families to prepare accessible feasts. Now she updates a beloved go-to resource for her grandchildren's generation adds a heaping helping of new recipes. Included are dishes old and new, traditional and novel, and mouth-watering recipes that everyone will enjoy. From Moroccan apricot chicken and chicken schnitzel tenders to veggie quiche. A Sweet Year is a comprehensive guide to Jewish holiday cooking. This cookbook doesn't just include child-friendly recipes, but also personal essays about Nathan's childhood and how her family celebrates, historical essays and biblical references about Jewish holidays, craft activities, and instructions on how to include children's help in the kitchen.
We really do have a little bit of everything on this list. I love it. Music history, we've got some fun titles for you to find a little bit more about the background of some of your favorite music. Um, Every Valley, The Desperate Lives and Troubled Times That Made Handel's Messiah. This is interesting. From New York Times bestselling historian and National Book Critics Circle Award finalist, the moving untold story of the 18th century men and women behind the making of Handel's Messiah. George Friedrich Handel's Messiah is arguably the greatest piece of participatory art ever created. Adored by millions, it is performed each year by renowned choirs and orchestras, as well as by audiences singing along with the words on their cell phones. But this work of triumphant joy was born in a worried age. Britain in the early Enlightenment was a place of astonishing creativity, but also the seat of an empire mired in war, enslavement, and conflicts over everything from legitimacy of the government to the meaning of truth. Against this turbulent background, prize-winning author Charles King has crafted a cinematic drama of the troubled lives that shaped every piece of this masterpiece of hope. Every Valley presents a depressive dissenter stirred to action by an ancient prophecy, an actress plagued by an abusive husband and public scorn, an Atlantic sea captain and penniless philanthropist, and an African Muslim man held captive in the American colonies and hatching a dangerous plan for getting back home. Every Valley is entertaining, inspiring, and unforgettable.
And next we have the Chronicles of Doom. On December 31st, 2020, the world was shocked to learn about the death of hip-hop legend MF Doom. Born in London and raised in the suburban enclave of Long Beach, New York, Daniel Dumoulin Jr.'s love of cartoons and comic books would soon turn him into one of hip-hop's most enigmatic, prolific, and influential figures. The Chronicles of Doom, Unraveling Rap's Masked Iconoclast, recounts the rise, fall, redemption, and untimely demise of MF Doom. Centering the music, journalist S.H. Fernando Jr. deftly lays out the history of East Coast rap against Doom's life story and dissects the personas, projects, tracks, and lyrics that led to his immortality. Including exclusive interviews with those who work closely with Doom and provided an intimate behind the scenes look into Doom's life, The Chronicles of Doom is a definitive biography of MF Doom, a supervillain on stage and hero to those who paid attention.
We're going to back up in time a little bit on this next one. If you, like me, were a young adult or a teenager in the late 80s and the 1990s, the soundtrack of those years, without a doubt, included songs like Losing My Religion, Stand, Shiny Happy People, Night Swimming, Everybody Hurts, Man on the Moon, and so many more. Now, with the name of this band is REM, Peter Ames Carlin delivers an electrifying cultural biography of the greatest and last American rock band of the millennium, whose music ignited a generation and reasserted the power of rock and roll. In the spring of 1980, an unexpected group of musical eccentrics came together to play their very first performance at a college party in Athens, Georgia. Within a few short years, they had taken over the world with smash records like Out of Time, Automatic for the People, Monster and Green. Raw, outrageous, and expressive, REM's distinctive musical flair was unmatched, and a string of mega successes solidified them as generational spokesmen. In this rich and intimate biography, critically acclaimed author Peter Ames Carlin looks beyond the sex, drugs, and rock and roll to open a window into the fascinating lives of four college friends, Michael Stipe, Peter Buck, Mike Mills, and Bill Berry, who stuck together at any cost until the end. Deeply descriptive and steeped in 80s and 90s nostalgia, the name of this band is REM, paints a cultural history of the commercial peak and near total collapse of a great music era.
It's hard not to sing during that slide.
I know. I know. And
Many of you
which is a
might
great
not know.
transition to this slide, which I want to call the
We do a
Swiftie
lot of
slide.
karaoke in our group. This one, I might have to put some new songs on our list. Oh, sorry. In our library era is we'll probably only ever do this once. It's our Taylor Swift dedicated slide because there's so many books coming out this fall about Taylor Swift. I wonder why. The first one is just called Taylor Swift. If your wildest dreams have come true, get an insider's look at Taylor Swift's life and achievements in this gorgeous collectible book for Swifties of all ages. Its 100 plus stunning photos include in commentary from top music and cultural writers as they explore the power of Taylor's music and influence and while she'll never go out of style.
And our next book is Taylor Swift by the Book. From Robert Frost's Road Not Taken on her debut album to Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Albatross on the Tortured Poets Department, Taylor Swift's lyrics are filled with literary connections. Make sure you're catching them all with this expert guide to the novels, poems, and plays that influence her songwriting. Let a literature professor, Rachel Feder, and a musical theater artist, Tiffany Tatro, guide you through the Taylor Swift canon, from Shakespeare to the Bronte sisters to Daphne du Maurier. Learn what New Romantics has to do with the Old Romantics. Get to know the Gothic monsters haunting midnights. Spot Taylor's many great Gatsby references and find your new favorite tortured poet. With full color illustrations highlighting the literary eras of Dr. Swift, yes, she has an honorary PhD, entertaining analysis, and literary themed playlists that fans will love. Taylor Swift by the Book will turn anyone from a Taylor Swift lover into a Taylor Swift scholar.
I love
You
that.
see the display sections now.
I
We will
know.
want to see pictures of them.
I love it. And I love so much that these two books are next to each other. The one you just presented, Miriam, and the next one, Invisible Strings, because it's like Taylor influenced by literature, literature influenced by Taylor. Here we go. So obviously Taylor Swift is everywhere, and it was just announced that we'll be publishing a very fun book in December showing just how far-reaching Taylor's influence really is, because Taylor was influenced in literature, but get this. In Invisible Strings, poet, professor, and dedicated Swiftie Christy Frederick Daughtry has brought together 113 contemporary poets, each contributing an original poem that responds to a specific Taylor Swift song. And in the spirit of celebration and collaboration, the poets have taken a cue from Swift's love of dropping clues and puzzles to her fandom to decode. And so each poem alludes to the song without using direct lyrics. They want the fans to decide and figure it out. The collection showcases a diverse and accomplished array of writers, including the 23rd U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, Diane Seuss, Carl Phillips, Kate Baer, Amanda Lovelace, Maggie Smith, and so many more. It's perfect for Swifties and poetry lovers. Let the decoding begin. I mean, these displays are building themselves. You're right, Kelly. It's incredible. And we don't want to leave our younger readers out. In April, the New York Times bestselling series, Who Was series, added Taylor Swift to their collection of fascinating and famous people. This middle grade book, available on audio and print editions as well, tells the story of how the young girl who lived on a Christmas tree farm grew up to become one of the most celebrated musical artists of the 21st century. The audio edition pictured here is read by Brittany Presley, the Earphones award-winning narrator, a voice actress, and an accomplished singer-songwriter in her own right. And in November, we're thrilled to offer the Spanish language audiobook as well. Something for every Swiftie. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're always thrilled to share new books and what we're most excited about with you. And I just want to say that as we were reviewing our notes for this presentation, we were talking, and I just feel like there's so many amazing books coming out this year. And I know we're biased, but I just feel like it's an incredible list, and we hope that you feel that way too. We will be sending the links, the presentation in our wrap up, but please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. You'll see the tiny URL on the screen, and we'll send it your way so that you can request e-galleys of those that are available. Thanks for joining us as always, and we'll see you in September.
Yeah, have a good summer, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.